88.1 The Burg, your movie central. Welcome back to What to Watch Weekends. My name is Nathan, the host of What to Watch Weekends, and I am not alone today. I'm joined by someone different than who I normally have here on What to Watch Weekends. If you'd like to introduce himself.
Hi, hello. My name is Logan Booth, and I work at 88.1 The Burg as the videographer, and I'm not the person who's usually here.
Yeah, usually I have Walter on, but Walter, I believe, is either out of town or he's busy, but you're on today.
I am. I'm right here.
The reason I stopped there for a second is because I realized it makes it sound like you were my secondary backup choice, and I don't want to get that across at all. You're here because I wanted you to be here, so cool. Now you're here. Welcome. Welcome to What to Watch Weekends, Logan.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you here. So, I wanted to give some context here. Part of the reason that I wanted to have you on is this week on What to Watch Wednesdays, I decided to talk about the first three in the Planet of the Apes reboot series.
No way.
No way. Whoa. Monkey movies, as they're called, as I like to call them. Very
simple. 8 movies.
It's what?
8 movies. Different from monkeys.
Yes.
They're different.
For some reason, I was hearing 8.
Oh, no.
Ape
movies.
Yes.
There are not 8 of them.
Yeah, there's 10 of them.
Yeah.
But overall, I was thinking of doing the reboot prequel trilogy for Planet of the Apes. And part of it was just for fun, because I like the movies. But I also wanted to have you on today because these movies are really good with visual effects. And I'm thinking to myself, who's in my immediate circle in town that I know who has some expertise with visual effects? How about the guy who animated me as a Lego figure, all in Blender? Maybe he would have some expertise on visual effects, just a little bit. He might know some 3D stuff here and there. So I figured it'd make total sense to invite you on.
The VFX heavy, calling those movies VFX heavy is honestly, that's even underestimating it. Half the time, especially the Dawn and War, they're just animated movies.
Right.
I mean, most of it.
Yeah, it's not egregious though in the way of they call them live action, but they should be animated. I think they'd be cooler animated, but at the same time, I kind of like the merging of real and not real. But
I agree. I think it fits, especially these movies, and they're kind of like more grittier aesthetic.
Yeah, definitely. Which is something that I think War pulls off the best. But
sure.
We'll save it on talking about War until later in the show, because we have to start somewhere, and we might as well start it with the first one, because the first one is the rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Indeed it is.
And for some reason, I always thought that it was Dawn of the Planet of the Apes that came first.
A lot of people do think that.
Yeah, because it's like, which one is first, Dawn or Rise? Which one? It's like the Dawn is the beginning of the day, but Rise is also the beginning. They got confused, and they confused me pretty immediately.
I wasn't super confused, but that's because I remember seeing the trailer to Rise out of the Planet of the Apes in the theaters when I was a kid.
Right.
A lot. Because it played a lot for a while.
Right. So you already have that kind of built-up thing of this is the one that came first before the other two. I did not have that luxury, so I just completely get them mixed up. But I should mention Rise of the Planet of the Apes from 2011, which is available to watch now on Max, the streaming service. Not the guy named Max that you know from your neighborhood. You don't ask him to play Rise of the Planet of the Apes unless he owns it.
Unless he owns it. He might own it.
He might own it. You never know.
But yeah, Max, the streaming service, not my dog Max, that none of you know. But I know him, and maybe a couple of you know who are listening. But it's not him. It's not him. It's it's the streaming service.
Yes.
Formerly HBO Max.
They should have kept it as HBO Max, in my opinion.
I
Because
agree.
I don't like calling it
Max.
Max.
A very poor branding move.
Yeah,
and I still call it HBO Max.
yeah, because it's run by HBO. It's not like it's taken over by Peacock now. But anyways, I should mention just very briefly the plot summary for Rise of the Planet of the Apes before we get into criticism. I like to stay on the format, even though I keep getting distracted and we're going off topic.
Okay.
At any rate, basic plot summary, it follows a ape named Caesar whose mother was injected with an cure for Alzheimer's disease. And when he's born, he's given higher intelligence than most apes And over the course of the movie, he evolves to have a human-like intelligence, all while dealing with being raised by James Franco.
He sure is raised by James Franco.
Yes.
And here we have my first qualm with the Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
We have...
That is, in fact, the actor James Franco, who I'm not a big fan of.
I can confidently say that I am not going to disagree with the interpretation of not being a fan of the human being James Franco.
Yes.
Especially the actions that man has done.
And when his character, he's fine.
Yeah.
He's okay.
He's decent, I'd say.
Of all of the human characters that I think are in these movies, he's probably my least favorite. I do think they get better. That's just my opinion.
Right.
I forgot his name. I forgot his name was Malcolm.
No, Malcolm's the one in Dawn.
Oh my God! See, that's the thing. I don't know James Franco's character's name.
It's just Will.
It's Will.
Will.
Dude,
that's such a dumb name.
Literally, did not catch that.
Yeah,
that's my middle name.
Really?
Yeah, William.
Oh well, but see, the full name is William.
No, you're right.
Right.
No, you're right.
Just Will.
See, Will could work, but James Franco doesn't make it work.
Okay, so I should clarify. It's a dumb name, in my opinion, when applied to the actor James Franco, because he doesn't look like a Will.
No,
That's what I meant to say.
Not.
That is what I genuinely meant to say. If you're named Will, that name probably fits you because your parents were smart and named you accordingly. The people who made the movie did not name James Franco's character accordingly.
Were very smart, and they didn't name me accordingly.
Yeah, but so at any rate, I think it's so funny to sit back and say that, if I'm being honest, Rise of the Planet of the Apes is like a boy and his dog type of movie.
It is like a boy and his dog type of movie, and then the revolution starts.
Yeah, okay. We'll get to that in a second. Yes, but I also
wanted, this is different now.
Yeah, before we get to that, I wanted to say a boy and his dog, except instead of it being a boy and a dog, it's James Franco and an ape.
It's James Franco and this ape that he found.
I find that twist so funny because it's like that sounds really weird.
Yeah.
Because it kind of is. And then
weird.
It does get a lot weirder. One thing I just didn't mention in my review on Wednesday, because I keep them spoiler free, is exactly what you've mentioned. Then the revolution starts.
Yes, and that's really where the movie picks up for me. I'll admit, as much as I don't like James Franco and I don't really care for the character of James Franco, I do think the relationship between him and Caesar does work.
Oh, yes.
Especially more towards the end.
Yes.
And I do think that is definitely a plus to the movie.
Yes.
Because that's Caesar's whole character.
Yeah. It's that development. That's the initial stages of it. And I think it's probably the greatest strength of the movie itself. Mm-hmm. I like the second... It's not really the second half. I, for some reason, thought it happened 40 minutes before the end. It happens in the last 30.
That makes sense. Yeah. Because it is really building up to that moment, especially... Yes. The moment we recreated.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah. For context, part of the reason I know Logan so well is because we recreate some of the movie scenes from each week of shows that I do for What to Watch Wednesdays. This week, we recreated the infamous scene from Rise of the Planet of the Apes, where Caesar is in an animal enclosure, and the person who's running the animal enclosure, an awful person, tries hitting him with an electric baton, and then says to him, "Get your stinking paw off me, you darn dirty ape." That famous quote from the original movie. And and Caesar looks him dead in the face and just says, "No."
It's so good. But I also don't like that line that much. I think it's super corny. Yeah, and I don't really think it worked that well from the original either.
No.
It barely worked in the original.
No, it's just Charlton Heston graveling something. I can see that. At the same time, I would prefer they have the reference back to the original to then have the ape.
Caesar himself is a reference to not the original. Right. I think the later sequels, there's a character named Caesar.
Oh, okay.
I don't fully remember, but I do know Caesar was a character at one point.
Right. And that would make sense because these are kind of, in a way, nostalgia bait or having to reboot in a way, so they have to make callbacks. But I think that scene is it's just funny because you get an ape yelling no.
You do, but it does. The build up to him yelling no is genuinely, it's great.
It is.
You do really feel his emotions in that scene.
Oh, yes.
As well as all of the other apes in the enclosure freaking out.
Especially the gorilla behind the door. I forgot how, like...
Me and that gorilla are friends. He can hang.
I could see that. I hope... I'm picturing you just being in that literal enclosure, literally just you CGI'd into the movie, sitting there, and it's such a funny but fitting image that's popped into my mind. I can't get it out of my head. I will tuck that in my brain and remember it forever.
I'm glad.
Cool. But to build off what you're saying, yes, that whole build up to Caesar's reaction is really worth it. It becomes enhanced by everything that comes after that.
Oh, absolutely. The whole Golden Gate Bridge sequence is amazing.
I forgot how good it was.
It's super good.
My only like qualm with it, really, my only like nitpick is why is there fog there when there wasn't already fog?
That is a good nitpick. My answer I'll give you, because it looks cool.
Yes, it does look cool, and that's the correct answer. That is indeed the correct answer.
There probably is a genuine answer that could be given, but that's mine.
But I agree with that answer though, and that's the reason why I consider this a nitpick, because I'm not complaining.
Yeah, that's
because
fair.
It looks awesome.
But it is weird. It is weird that it just shows up.
It just shows up, but at the same time, you get Koba and his other apes falling from the sky through the fog. It's like, I'm not complaining that happened.
Nope. It's very cool.
It's very, very cool. Very high-level tactics from apes.
Yes.
I think that scene, in that just ending part in particular, when I first watched it, again, I'm sitting there going, this is a boy and his dog story up until the massacre.
Until
it just like really isn't, and now
until they get real mad.
They get real mad, and then it turns into like a war, like partial the beginning of a war.
Yeah.
Like this is the beginning, Viva la ape or something like that.
Exactly.
Viva la ape. That is a way of saying things that I have said out loud.
Viva la ape-volution, you know?
Ape-volution.
Hey, that's not even far-fetched. We're not there yet, but in war there is a sign that just says the ape-pocalypse.
Yes. Yes, I was just about to say the beginning of the ape-pocalypse. That I made that joke on the Wednesday show when talking about Dawn. I messed up when I should have brought it up in war, but I couldn't hold off on the.
It's so funny.
It's such a funny joke.
It will come back to it.
Yes. Let me see here. Let's see. Oh, I completely forgot that there was the genuine. Keep in mind, the whole apocalypse happened because John Lithgow had Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Keep that in mind.
See, that is true, but I would also like to think that instead of blaming him, it's all James Franco's fault.
No, it is. I'm not saying it's John Lithgow's fault that he has Alzheimer's. I'm saying this started because he has Alzheimer's, and that's just the start of it. It's not really the blame. The blame falls to James Franco's character going, I should try and cure Alzheimer's.
Which is very noble cause.
Noble cause?
I think the bad move of him was going, oh, I'm going to take this experimental drug and use it on my dad.
Yeah, that part, and also...
That probably wasn't the brightest idea.
Yeah, and also, I feel like any scientist would know if you're going to make a drug, they're going to test it on animals, and it's like, maybe we don't try to treat Alzheimer's by testing it on apes.
Yeah.
That's just kind of unethical.
I think one thing I thought is, how do they not know that Bright Eyes had a baby?
Yeah,
they didn't figure that out.
She was pretty good at hiding it.
I guess it was just under a bench.
Yeah, it was just there. But it's
like, I mean, they're like, oh, it was protective. You didn't know?
Yeah, I was wondering that, like, if she were to have the baby, wouldn't she be making a lot of noise?
Either making a lot of noise, or even if that happened at night, I'm sure there's night guards.
Yeah, there are night guards.
Or, I don't know, the baby could cry.
Yeah, that is a really good point. How did they not know?
How did they not know there was a baby there?
All of the apes
It doesn't matter in the end, but it is a bit odd.
Yeah, all the apes have been euthanized. there is the baby.
Yep.
Okay, there it is. It's just an excuse to like have Melvin or whatever his name was, the larger guy who's looking after the apes, have this mental breakdown of going, I'm not euthanizing a baby.
Or Franklin, I think it's Franklin.
Yeah, I think it's Franklin. Yeah.
Franklin. Also, as much as James Franco did, of course, cause the entire planet to die, Franklin, put on your mask, dude. Like the simian flu gets everywhere because he doesn't have any mask on.
No, I forget. Was he like itching his nose, or did he just
it was something like that?
I think
and it's obviously he wouldn't have expected it to like get out everywhere, but like you're still dealing with a possibly deadly virus.
Yeah, I was sitting there going, I completely had forgotten that he was patient zero, but I'm still sitting there going, there ain't no way he doesn't get infected by the gases from the mask without having that on. There's no way that won't have repercussions later. And then I realized, right, he's patient zero.
Then it did.
Yeah, totally.
So then you think, oh, wait, in the original Planet of the Apes movie, there's no humans.
Right.
Oh, now I know why that happened.
Okay. I have a weird tangent to go off of.
Go for it.
With Rise. So this is something I would bring up for the rest of the movies as well, but it was something that I did a whole paragraph on when rewatching Rise of the Planet of the Apes. So here's one thing that I wanted to mention. I love that the apes use sign language.
Yes.
Because, in my opinion, sign language is actually one of the best and most beautifully expressive languages.
It's a beautiful language, yes.
It's one that I've suddenly really wanted to learn after watching Rise of the Planet of the Apes. But, I mean, legitimately, I've seen it used in other movies, one of them being like my favorite movie called Three Colors White.
Yep.
Part near the end of that movie has sign language in it. It's one of the most visually satisfying and heart-wrenching moments of that movie. Just has sign language in it.
Yeah.
And the more I look at people using sign language, the more I go, this is a really good way to communicate. This is a very heartfelt way, because with words, you can only say so much. You can have the verbal inflection. You can have that projection. And I would know, being a radio person, words can go a long way.
Absolutely.
But sometimes it's how you talk with your hands that can really enhance what you're saying.
How you talk with your hands, the facial expressions as well.
The facial expressions, definitely. And the way I look at it is you take those two things, you marry them together, and then you add in how much muscle you can put into your hands moving as well, depending on how you flex them. I find that there's just a lot more flexibility kind of readily available. It's essentially, how do I put it? I can imagine a good, decent voice actor getting the same pitch very consistently. Having perfect pitch is possible in human beings, right? With sign language, I can't see a person hitting their fist against their open palm in the exact same way every single time, over and over again, repetitively, which I kind of like that imperfection each time about it. That's what makes it interesting to watch. That's what makes it go, it has variety to it, has interest and intrigue to it.
It's very unique to the person who is speaking with sign language.
Exactly. And I like that about it. And because of that, I find that the way the apes communicate to be really, really fun to watch.
I agree. I do honestly even in the later ones, I'm usually more compelled when they're using sign language as opposed to when it's just like Andy Serkis talking.
Right.
Which I do enjoy.
Yeah,
he's a very good performer.
Oh, yes.
But I do really... I really liked watching the apes communicate via sign language more. I find that a little more entertaining.
Yeah, it's a little more entertaining, especially with how good the CGI apes look and how leathery their hands are. Yeah. It gives the motions a little more oomph to them visually, because it's like, how do you know what I've just realized? I've had this weird aha moment where I'm realizing, because of how VFX heavy these movies are, and because they sure had the endless talent of Andy Serkis, and a lot of the other motion capture actors were super talented, but there's only so much you can do with that. I think I'm realizing it was almost a compensation on their end to use sign language in a way, because they're essentially getting more expression out of those characters that isn't so heavily reliant on the faces when they already have really good faces, right? So
They have really good faces, yeah.
so they're basically elevating it twice more than they ever needed to, since they already were geniuses and had unreal amounts of facial expression.
They have very unreal amounts of facial expression because you could see Andy Serkis's face in Caesar, in Dawn and in War. I know they had to make new models completely for those movies because just the original model from Rise doesn't have the facial structure to make more human sounds other than like no or go. Because obviously apes and humans have very different facial structures. And so after that, they had to, of course, update those models to give more the ability to capture the facial expressions, and it really pays off because it's very, very good.
Yeah, but even with that updating, that already looking very, very good, then you have the added benefit. They still do sign language.
They do. It's
great.
great.
They still do. They've basically just taken the best of both things, mushed them together, and gone, here, let's make everything better.
Yeah.
Yes, please do that. That'd be great.
All the movements, all great. I mean, even just to talk about the VFX in these movies are insane.
Oh,
Even in Rise, which is from 2011.
Yeah.
Which is very impressive.
I mean, it's aged better than...
It's aged incredibly well.
I mean, unsurprisingly better than the Star Wars prequels, but that's my...
And, like, obviously they look better in Dawn and in War, but... So, watching these movies, and you're looking at all the apes, and you're like, wow, okay, that, like, CGI looks great, but, like, you can tell it's a CGI monkey. Maurice just looks like a real orangutan.
Yes.
Like, what is that? Why, like, you can look at all of the other apes, and you're like, this is incredibly good CG. It looks photoreal, but I can tell it's a CGI ape. What is it about the orangutan that just looks real?
To give some like full-blown context, one of the main apes that Caesar is buddy with from about the halfway point of Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and becomes his friend for the next two movies, is Maurice, an orangutan.
Yes.
Maurice is a really good-looking orangutan.
He's really good. He looks genuinely completely photoreal. Where they all look real. They all look very good. But for some reason, him specifically,
I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is.
I think it's like...
It might be like, he might just have a more ape facial structure, because the other ones have a little more human in them to give that dialogue to work. He doesn't really talk much.
You know what I've just realized? This is a weird theory, but follow me here.
Okay, I'll follow you.
One thing I've seen in a video talking about monsters in general, right? For some reason, they brought up orangutans in this like weird video essay I watched about monsters. And they go, orangutans, they look cool. They're kind of cool looking monkeys. And then they went on this weird tangent about how orangutans have these flaps on the sides of their heads.
Yeah.
These kind of crests, right?
They do.
And they were like, that's weird. Are they handles or something? It was a weird tangent in this stupid video that I've watched. But the point I'm trying to get across is, ever since I've seen that, I've always noticed that orangutans have those flaps. And in reality, I knowing what I do about 3D modeling, which is not extensive, but enough to know that kind of orbish or kind of flat facial structure things aren't super insanely difficult to model.
Yeah.
With Maurice having those flaps on the sides of his face, I would say subconsciously and consciously, it has something to do with the flaps.
It might, for sure. It definitely has something to do with the face, I think.
Yes.
Because it's especially the face that looks the most photoreal, because that's the hardest thing to capture.
Yeah.
In CG and in VFX is just a face in general, especially the human face. Oh my gosh.
It's essentially like the drawing a hand of VFX.
Yeah, basically.
Essentially. Yeah. Now I'm following it. So I personally, my answer to that is I think it's the flaps.
It might be the flaps. It's the face in its entirety, including the flaps.
Yes.
But he looks real. He looks
does.
incredible, and it's consistent throughout all of the movies. He looks the most real.
Yeah, and big props to the person who played Maurice. Let me look up the cast, because I got to make sure I know who did it. Karen Konoval. Maurice was played by a woman, which is great.
That is awesome.
She does such a good job. Like, big ups to Karen. You have created one of my secondary favorite characters in these movies.
Yeah.
Because if I'm being honest, Caesar is my favorite character.
Caesar's so sick.
He's so good.
He's
but
good.
All of the side characters like Koba, Maurice, Rocket.
They're all very lovable.
They're
very
all-
likable. They take a really good job making these characters you care about them.
Yeah. Which is crazy saying when it's Planet of the Apes, a very long franchise that historically wasn't very good at making the apes all that likable.
Yeah. But
So-
they really were able to nail it. It's really, really impressive, especially with just how much time you spend with them.
Oh, yeah.
And it's good. It's very good.
I mean, you spend enough time with them with the first one, but you're still sitting there going, man, I could spend another movie with them.
Yep. And then you do.
And then you
And then
do.
you spend another one.
There's been
and then
another-
possibly another one with different apes, but there's still apes in it.
Yeah, they're still apes. But that's getting a little ahead of ourselves. I think now is a good time for us to go to break. And when we come back, we will jump into Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I think that's a smart idea. How about you?
I think that's a very smart idea.
Awesome. We will be back soon. 88.1 The Burg, your movie central. Welcome back to What's Watch Weekends. My name is Nathan, and I'm joined.
By Logan.
You are
still.
I was about to say you are joined by Logan when I am joined by Logan.
Yes.
But you are also joined by Logan because you are Logan joining yourself.
I am.
Yes, that's how that works. Anyways, math. So, speaking of math, we are going to be moving on to our second movie on the watch list tonight, which will be Dawn of the Planet of the Apes from 2014.
Yes.
Which is available to watch from places such as YouTube, Amazon, Apple, Fandango at home, anywhere you can rent movies. You can rent it there if you want to.
Yes.
At any
Yes,
rate.
you can.
Yes, which is what I have done. And you should too, because that is the legal thing to do.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
At any rate. So the basic plot summary of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Many years after the events of Rise of the Planet of the Apes, we now have Caesar leading a pack of apes in the woods. We have humanity being whittled down to a very select few who do not die to the virus carried by the apes that makes them smarter. And in fact, I've just realized for a thing that was supposed to cure Alzheimer's, it does a really good job killing off human beings.
Sure does.
It does a really good job at that. I mean, technically it already was a virus, but it's like all the more reason to blame James Franco and call him kind of a moron at the end of the day, if I'm being honest. So at any rate, humanity has been engulfed by a plague. A very small amount of them remain, and some of them want to get into ape territory to get access to a dam so they can have electricity.
Yes.
Caesar is at first okay with this idea, or he gradually works up to being okay
He works
with
up
it.
to being okay with it.
He works up to it. His lieutenant and his close friend, who is also an ape by the name of Koba, is not okay with
He's
it.
not stoked about it.
Not
which
very
You
stoked.
can't really blame him for.
No. Koba, for context, he's worth mentioning if you're talking about the original. But
He is in it.
He is in it. But I think it makes more sense to bring it up while talking about the second one because this is when he starts to have more of a relevant role. Koba is an ape in the first movie, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, that was brought in during the second stage of testing the Alzheimer's drug. Basically, the second iteration of the drug.
The deadly iteration.
The deadly iteration. That's true. That one. That's
That's
true.
the one that did it. The first one was fine.
Yeah, I mean, it just didn't work eventually.
It stopped working after some time. But
Yeah.
you know what? It's still an incredible feat to have like an Alzheimer's medication that can cure it for like 8 years
I mean,
or however
yeah.
long it lasts.
That is a good point.
It takes a very long time for it to catch up to him.
True.
And then he's immediately like, "Oh, we have to make a more aggressive one." Call it there.
Call it there.
That is a feat of medicinal
Right.
practice.
Right. We're getting so sidetracked talking more about Rise, but that's fine. So
Stupid James Franco. It's all his fault.
Yes. What is definitely all his fault is making that second strain of the virus and essentially incurring the company that he works for to bring in the test ape Koba, who has been very scarred, quite literally physically,
Yes.
from a lot of other tests run on him.
And he's already very intelligent.
He's already quite intelligent. And then he gets the virus, and then he grows a lot smarter.
It's much more intelligent.
Much more intelligent. In the first movie, in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, it makes sense for him to be the way that he is. He's just kind of the background one.
Yep.
And in the second movie, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, he becomes a very close friend of Caesar, who clearly isn't going to betray Caesar and attempt to blame the humans for a lot of problems.
He would never do that.
He would never do that.
You're telling me
Yeah.
the ape that looks evil is the bad guy?
No way.
No.
The Mads.
No.
He looks kind of like Mads Mikkelsen in Casino Royale.
He kind of does.
Yeah. At that point, now I've just realized it's so obvious.
It's so clear. You're like, oh, this is the one that's evil.
Yeah, and that's funny considering the fact that for some reason, when I first watched this movie, I was like, yeah, it's obvious, but they're kind of gaslighting me into thinking he's not going to do it.
They do kind of make you think he's not going to do it, and then he does it.
I will say that was something I got on the first time around more than the second time around. I think the first time around, I kind of convinced myself that he wasn't going to, that they weren't going to be the whole generic thing. And there was enough shadow of a doubt there until a point where it's very clear that he's going to betray.
It is pretty clear that he's going to betray.
But
Definitely, it wasn't surprising, but I do think it did work for the movie, especially the way what this movie is going for.
yeah, I don't think it was a bad choice. I think I was just surprised it didn't hold up to like the whole, it could go either way sort of thing. It's going to go one way. You know it's going to. And
I mean, you know by the end of all of these, all of the humans are going to be gone.
that's true too. But I mean, it's nice to hope.
It's nice to hope, but like you know the piece isn't going to be, it's not going to last for long.
Right.
It's a very unfortunate, but these are in fact prequels.
Yeah, that's a good point too. So, at any rate, I think the best way to describe the first two is I think their storylines are kind of generic because you can see where they're going, but at the same time, that doesn't make them bad.
Yeah, I can definitely understand then that point. I don't know if I necessarily say they're generic, but they are definitely predictable. Predictable in that you know the general plot points, but you don't necessarily know how they're going to get there. And I think that's what they're able to benefit and do well.
Right.
Also, it's directed by Matt Reeves, so it looks great.
Oh yes, that too. I think I will also mention that just because it's predictable with plot points doesn't mean that the character moments in between aren't filled out in a different way than what you would normally see, or in a way that benefits these CGI apes in a really, really high level way.
Yeah, I think the plot itself is not necessarily the main focus of at least Dawn for sure, and Rise. But Rise, it's a little more plot heavy. I mean, they're all plot heavy, obviously, but it's more the development of Caesar and Koba and their relationship together.
Yeah, that's
what does amazing.
Yes, that's the core of it, and I think that's the best part of it.
Absolutely.
Now we get into the part of my opinion where we might differ a little bit, because I want to talk about the thing that I don't think I like the most about Dawn.
Go for it.
So, okay. You mentioned Malcolm.
Yes, I did mention Malcolm, and I like him better than James Franco.
That's fair. However, I don't really like Malcolm.
Yep, I remember reading your review.
All right. I put that in there.
You did.
Here's my thing about Jason Clarke playing the character of Malcolm.
Yes.
I'm not going to say it's a problem on the actor's side. I don't think it was Jason Clarke's fault. I think it was a writing issue. And then I also think that I can't really say it's a fault, more so that straight up, I don't think Jason Clarke is a very okay actor. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
But I don't think he's a very okay actor. I just don't think he's all that good. He's kind of generic. He's very milquetoast, bland, curly hair guy, right? this is all my opinion.
Sure. No, you're allowed to have them.
Yeah, my opinion got very skewed because I found he was doing very little to contribute to the plot, and what he was contributing I didn't like. What he didn't contribute was anything that made a lot of sense. He didn't seem to have a reason to be going to the dam other than he was assigned to go to the dam when Gary Oldman told him to.
I feel like he had a plenty reason to go to the dam in the sense that he's the only one who knows where they are, as well as has been able to actually talk to Caesar. He's also clearly the only one who doesn't want them to die, which is a pretty big, big part.
That's a good point.
If anyone else went, then the apes would likely have just been shot down.
Yeah.
And clearly I think he could feel that, and he could tell that he was probably the only one who could have gotten the dam working in a peaceful solution.
Yes.
Which he did for like 20 minutes.
For 20 whole minutes. I think I will concede to that point. Okay. I think the way he goes about doing it is a little frustrating to me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because the way he does it is, what he does contribute, in my opinion, is a lot of going against Caesar because he also cares a lot about the humans, and he wants them.
He's conflicted.
He's conflicted in a very frustrating and annoying way, in the kind of way that how do I put it? I'm getting a call. I don't know why I was getting a call. Anyways, darn phone distracted me. I think that Malcolm should have not been a central character. I didn't really like the way the conflict was portrayed through his actor. And his conflict kind of manifests in a way of, hey, Caesar, can I go get to the dam on your property? And Caesar's like, okay, fine. And then one of the other humans brings a gun, and Caesar says, no guns, leave. My wife is dying.
Yes.
What does Malcolm do?
He comes back.
He comes back. Hey, Caesar, can I get... My wife is dying. I told you to leave.
Yes. However, and I can't necessarily fault Malcolm for coming back, because what else was he gonna do?
I can agree with that.
They need this dam. It's the only source of electricity that they can have.
They need the dam.
And
it's the only source.
Also hearing about, my wife's dying. I guess he didn't find that out until he got up there.
Yeah.
But then he was able to help with that. He was able to make sure that she didn't die.
Right.
I think that was probably the only thing he could have done in that situation, is go back. It's also not his fault that the other guy brought a gun, because that guy was dumb.
Sure. I think...
And he did the right thing of sending him away.
Yes, he did the right thing. I can see where the argument for him comes from.
Yeah.
I think I didn't like the way he was doing it, though. It's not... I think... How do I put it? It's more about the inflection of his voice and his begging and the way that he carried himself, because I think part of it comes down to the actor not doing a good job at portraying desperation. Just kind of this bland guy going, Caesar, come on, can I get it? That he doesn't give me the emotions of something that I want to root for.
Okay. I don't necessarily agree, but I do see where you're coming from.
Here's something I really wanted to bring up, and it's fine that you disagree. This is all my opinion.
No, I get you.
I honestly think this would have been a more interesting story with this human conflict if you take everything off of Jason Clarke and you don't have Malcolm in the movie, and instead put it into Kerry Russell's character. I like Kerry Russell better as an actress. I think she does a better job in this movie. I think she would have carried all of the things that Malcolm was doing a lot better.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. But I think Kerry Russell should have been the main human character. I would have preferred her to be the main human character. Again, that's just my outlook on it. What do you think of that?
I mean, I'm not going to say you're wrong about that. I don't necessarily... Malcolm's not my favorite human character in a movie. Like he is the human character.
Yes.
Of Dawn. Where honestly, I think War works better because there are so little human characters that we see, like, who are a protagonist. I like Malcolm, Mostly just because I honestly I can't even think about why I like Malcolm. I just kind of do. His vibes. I thought he had good vibes.
I wouldn't disagree with that outlook on it.
No, but I mean, because it's like I don't necessarily disagree with you that I do think that like writing for him could have been better. I do think that the character handled the situation with what he could handle and how the best he could have handled it at the time.
Yeah.
I think everything he did made sense for what was happening in the plot and what we know about him as a character.
Right.
Well, I guess that's why I like him. He feels like real. He feels like he's part of that world.
Sure, and I can kind of see that. I think I used to be super angry about it. I think I had the opposite problem that you had a positive with, in that I just didn't like his vibes. I didn't really like the way he
I can't fault you for that. Yeah, I mean,
it just didn't gel with me.
it doesn't gel with you. It doesn't gel with you.
I got really angry about it when I was talking about it on Wednesday, and then I was yelling about it, and I had to take a step back, and I've slept on it a couple of days, and I still think if Kerry Russell was the main character, it would have been a much more enjoyable movie for me, and I would have liked, especially in relation to Malcolm's son Alexander. His whole relationship with the apes would have been a lot more interesting. If he didn't have his father, then and had to rely on Kerry Russell as like the adopted mother kind of thing, it's this very strange combination, but in a way that I think would have been a lot more compelling to watch play out on screen rather than him already having his dad. I mean, I know he probably already lost his wife, but he doesn't really ever mention it.
Yeah, he doesn't really bring it up. I think my main issue with Malcolm is that he doesn't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my other thing.
That's my main. That's my. I like that. I can. That yeah. He doesn't really do much.
He doesn't.
Even toward the. Well, he finds Caesar.
Uh huh.
No, he doesn't. He does not find. No, someone else finds him.
No,
and then he comes down.
If anything, they just bump into him.
They bump into Caesar. They take care of him. Then that's good. I think his conversation with Caesar about James Franco is very heartfelt. I think that's a very good moment.
Yes.
Of that film.
Yes.
But then, like at the end, he just kind of goes up and then is like, "Hey, don't do that," and then the guy blows himself up. And then it's like, okay, well, that would have happened anyway.
Yeah, Gary Oldman is just
Gary Oldman's just like, "Oh, I'm gonna blow myself up now."
Yes.
And then he's like, and then Malcolm's like, "Don't do that," and then he does it.
Yes.
And it's like, okay.
I think
Whatever, I guess.
To build off your whole thing of the whole conversation about James Franco, the thing that annoyed me about that scene is it's this really heartfelt conversation. Then he goes, "He was a good human, like you," and I go, Malcolm hasn't really done anything to prove that he's a bad human, but he hasn't done anything to really prove that he's a good human.
At this
either.
point, he did save his life.
I'll concede to that.
He did save his life, and he did help. He saved his life, and he saved his wife. What can I say?
Yeah, and he also was about peace. So I'll back off on that. That's a good point.
He is from what Caesar's understanding of humans is, he would be a good human.
That is fair. That is fair. I will say my favorite thing about Malcolm is how he leaves how he exits the movie. He's standing at the top of this wreckage with Caesar, and then Caesar walks away from him. And when Caesar turns to look back at him at the doorway, he's gone. He just walks through a darkened doorway, and he's just gone.
Yeah, he's just gone forever.
He just leaves. Bye-bye.
Which is, I guess that's a trend of these movies. You have the human character, and then they do not come back for the next one.
Good.
Which I'm fine with.
Yeah.
I'm good because Malcolm, I liked him coming into this. I like him a little less after this conversation because I agree with your points. I still like him. I think he's a good character, and I think he adds to the movie. But he does not do a lot.
No.
James Franco does more than him, and that is saying something because James Franco killed the world.
Yeah, but that's doing something more.
That is doing something,
that's doing
but it's not good.
No, it's not good, but it's doing more action.
That's true. It's like James. Also, like, what do you mean he's a good human? James Franco?
No.
Caesar, do you know what he did?
No, I don't think he did. I think he just saw that John Lithgow just didn't have Alzheimer's for a while there.
I know. And that's not obviously he's not a bad human. He is trying to. He has a noble cause.
Right.
He's just kind of dumb.
He just didn't.
Being dumb doesn't make you a bad person. It just means you're not very smart.
No. Which would, but then again, I guess he is kind of a bad person because he's a scientist and kind of dumb. So it's like, why are you still a scientist?
That's true.
I gotta mention before we go to break, we will go to break very soon, and it will be the start of the next hour. But I wanted to mention, I'm glad that you always call him James Franco because that discredits him a little more as an actor, showing that he's not very able to get into the character of, well,
I didn't know his name.
yeah, that's fair. But I was already going to call him just James Franco to begin with. That's what I was going to do from the beginning to discredit him as an actor.
I think it's very funny that we do call him James Franco the entire time, and we are calling Malcolm Malcolm.
That's 1 point for Malcolm. One point against James Franco. At least his name's. I remembered his name.
Yeah,
maybe I was angry at him, but I remembered his name more
his
than
name
James
was
Franco.
more memorable than James Franco's character.
That's fair. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
With that being said, we are now going to go to break, and we will be back very soon for War for the Planet of the Apes. 88.1 The Burg, your movie central. Welcome back to What to Watch Weekends. My name is Nathan, the host of What to Watch Weekends, and I have just cleared my throat directly into your ears. I am very sorry for that, but I'm not sorry to introduce for our second hour the same guest from the first hour, if you'd like to say hello.
Hey, it's me, the same guest from the first hour, Logan Booth.
Great.
I also just cleared my throat into the microphone, and I'm going to be real with you. I'm not sorry about it.
Perfect. That's the best introduction I've ever had on What to Watch Weekends, honestly, and that's saying something.
What can I say? We're setting goals and we're setting legends. Though neither of those words made sense.
Nope.
Let's continue.
Let us continue on to our third movie that we'll be talking about tonight, that being War for the Planet of the Apes from 2017, which is available to watch now from renting services. I'm not going to list them all off again. Yes, I will.
Same ones.
I will do it for the sake of consistency and for the sake of keeping myself locked into a format permanently. YouTube, Apple TV, Fandango at Home, Amazon Prime, you can rent it from those services. Now, basic plot summary of War for the Planet of the Apes. Years after the end of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, so another time skip. Now that there has been a combat breakout between Caesar and his group of apes, not between his group of apes, between Caesar's group of apes and the human beings, thanks to that jerk Koba, there is now a big military all-out palooza against Caesar's apes, led by a ruthless colonel, who is portrayed by Woody Harrelson.
Indeed he is, and he has the shiniest head I've ever seen in a movie about talking apes. And I'm just, it's impressive.
That's, I mean,
there's the moment where he just like comes out, he's shaving his head. What are you shaving? There's nothing there.
I like how we're going to this immediately. I mean, let me ask you, do you think he was good in the movie?
Oh, absolutely. I thought he was a great aspect. I thought he played a very good character, and also a character that I was a lot more sympathetic for than I thought I was going to be going into it.
Oh, absolutely. I knew going into it that he had this really good monologue at some point in the movie that basically changed the entire perspective on his character all the way around. But I'm sitting there rewatching the movie and I'm going, I'm sorry, I forgot that the monologue was essentially, my son was injected with, or was infected by your simian flu.
Yep.
The same thing that gives you your intelligence. He stopped talking to me because that's what that flu does.
That was kind of a crazy reveal as well.
Yeah.
That it's evolved and mutated and making humans more ape-like.
Yes.
That's kind of a fun twist, I thought. I thought that was a really interesting aspect of that.
I mean, I will say, I think it took me until watching Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes to remember, I think that was in the original movie.
It might have been. I don't remember.
I think it was, because the woman that was with Charlton Heston didn't really talk.
No, you're right. You're probably right about that.
I think that was the thing. But it mutating was definitely a good twist. And then he goes, and this is in context of the movie.
Yes.
This is what Woody Harrelson says. He says, I shot my son because he couldn't talk anymore. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to infect everybody else because I didn't want to infect everybody else. But it was so sad because he looked at me with trust in his eyes. He trusted his father. and his father then shot him in the head.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up.
Very messed up, and I'm sitting there going,
And it's like, yeah, like wow.
I could see why you don't really like the apes, man.
Yeah, I feel bad for him.
I feel bad.
It's like that sucks, but also, man, they didn't make the flu.
No.
It's not the ape's fault.
Yeah.
It's James Franco's fault. Yeah, I'm still on that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, it's not like you're wrong. It's not like you're wrong. Yeah, I think it's honestly, in my opinion, the best human character out of all of these movies.
I would agree. Absolutely.
I
think I agree for sure.
I think
He's the most compelling of all of them.
yeah, he's sympathetic villain, sure, but like our one of our film professors here at CW tends to say, from his perspective, he is the hero of the story, which yes,
Yeah, absolutely from his perspective, for sure.
I could see him having that hero complex and kind of this rough and toughness that's required of him.
Because to him, he's saving the world.
Yeah.
He's saving humanity.
Which I can see that making sense, especially with that personal thing. So it's all there. When I say it's all there, that doesn't really narrow it down because there's a lot that is there.
There is a lot that is there. This is a dense movie.
It's very dense, and I would say it's a step up from the last two.
I agree.
Dramatically.
I think this is the best of the trilogy for sure.
Absolutely.
Of the Caesars trilogy. It's 100% the best, and it is. It got Matt Reeves is good.
Yes,
He is a good director.
So let me tell you something really funny right now. I think you may, I don't know if I said this in my written review, but if I didn't, here's one funny thing about War for the Planet of the Apes. When I first watched it, this was back a couple years ago, so maybe around the lockdown time, right? I decided to watch all three of these movies. And I loved Dawn when I first watched it.
Yeah.
I loved it. And then I sat down and watched War. And I'm sitting there going, this is all right. This is all right. Mm-hmm. I get to the end of it, and I'm like, that was all right. That was the best one. That's kind of overrated.
Yeah.
And looking back on that take on it, I'm going, can I just not be a contrarian every single time I watch a movie? Can I just not do that to myself, please? Yeah. Because if I'm being honest, I don't remember why I didn't like it the first time around. No, now I remember why. So I think this is the best one now after rewatching it. Yeah. I think at the time I was like, what is this tonal shift? Because it is a dramatic tonal shift. It is a
very dramatic tonal shift. This was my first time watching it.
Right.
This is my first time watching all of them.
Right. So, and that's fair. And I mean, still going from Rise to Dawn,
It's definitely a tonal shift. It's a bit more gritty, but it's not as drastic as War is. I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like the beginning of War is a similar tone to Dawn, and then there's a certain moment that happens that really I think flips everything.
Which part is it? Oh,
when Woody Harrelson infiltrates.
Yeah, I mean, even before that, I knew that
it was definitely grittier for sure.
I'll say this: I agree with you, but I think knowing when that 30-minute twist happens, like knowing that was going to happen going into it on my second time around, I actually was watching the first 20 minutes with a little more intensity, and I was noticing they're showing the apes die in a lot more brutal ways, and the humans dying a bit more brutally.
It's a bit more. It's definitely much more violent.
Yes.
It's not to say that it's like gory or anything, but it's definitely more violent.
It's more
than the other ones, just in the sense of like, there's a lot more death.
Yes, it's heightened.
I mean, it's war.
Yes,
it is a very much a good take on this is war.
Yes, like full out war at this point, and I think that. Essentially, on the second time around, I just was a bit thrown by that tonal shift being present from the immediate thought, from the outset, right? From what I remember from the first time watching it, it didn't really take a turn until that 20-minute thing, but rewatching it, I'm like, no, it's kind of there from the beginning. It's just right there in your face when you press play. Cool. I've said the 20-minute twist so many times that I should probably clarify. Here's one thing that really seals the deal. Woody Harrelson, the colonel, infiltrates the apes' nest, and he's there to kill Caesar.
Yes.
He ends up killing Caesar's wife and his teenage son.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, his wife, I didn't know he had one until dawn.
Yeah, because I don't think it's revealed until in Rise. I don't think he gets one in Rise.
No, he doesn't get one in Rise. And in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, his son contributes about 15 minutes of screen time, with about 5 of those being, 10.
He has a decent bit of screen time. It's mostly just him being manipulated, though.
Yes, by Koba.
Yeah.
And that's not really character development.
He doesn't have a lot of time to develop as a character.
No.
Really.
So, on the one hand, you don't really care for those characters. On the other hand, you have had a long time to watch Caesar.
You really care about Caesar.
You really care about Caesar. And when these two things that really matter to him get murdered pretty brutally, as in like dead bodies on the floor looking at him with their open eyes, that is in context definitely what happens in the movie. Yeah. It is brutal.
It is dark.
It hurts really badly. I was fully convinced that he even killed off the baby.
I thought they were gonna go there, and they didn't.
Yeah.
I was expecting it to.
I for some reason remember them killing off the baby, but I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah.
Because that would if that
I think that would have been a bit much.
That would have been a bit much.
That would have been a bit much, especially for Woody Harrelson's character, because it would have been like, why did he do that?
Yeah.
Especially when you learn about him later on, like he wouldn't have done that.
No, from the way it sounded, it actually made total sense the way he did it, because the reason he killed off the son is because he thought it was Caesar.
Yeah, and they look the same.
They do look the same because father and son.
Exactly.
Obviously, it makes sense with that context. And killing off the wife, it's like, okay, so there's no real witness to it.
She was there.
She was there, right? Another ape that is basically contributing to the downfall.
Yeah,
not going to kill a baby though, so makes sense. Yeah, I think my brain has just gone to scrambled eggs because of how dark this movie is.
That is fair. We can get a little more lighthearted.
Yeah.
We can
Bad Ape.
Bad Ape. He's so funny.
He's so funny.
I love that guy.
Bad Ape is this mini ape played by Steve Zahn.
They call him that the whole time.
No. It's even better than that because they don't call him that. No. He points to himself and goes, Bad
That's
Ape.
me. I'm Bad Ape. And then the subtitle calls him that the entire movie. Every time he talks, it's Bad Ape. And it's like, but he's not. Though he is pretty bad at being an ape.
He's just a little dude.
He's just a guy.
I think the best argument for Bad Ape being in the movie is it is conclusive proof that a comedic relief character can be a character.
And can be very empathetic as well.
Yes.
And sympathetic.
I think that Bad Ape works because he says funny things, but he's not a comedic relief character.
I think it works because he says a funny joke, but no one else is like making a quip against him to like make fun of him or something.
Yeah.
Which happens a lot in like more modern quippy films.
Yeah.
Where someone quips back. It's a whole thing. But he just says things, and he's not trying to be funny.
No. I think the best part, I saw this clip online before rewatching the movie, and I was like, I can't wait till this part in the movie. And it still just made me burst out laughing, because there's this part where they're looking over the camp that all the apes are being held in, and they have the binoculars, and Rocket's saying to Maurice, what do we do? And Maurice is going, we should follow what Caesar would do. Bad Ape holds up the binoculars, and they're backwards, and he goes, oh no!
Oh no!
Why is it so small? And the two of them look over at him, super concerned, until he says, why so small? And Maurice is just like,
that bit, and then the bit where Maurice is telling him that he has to like go up the hole, and he's just like, oh no. No. And Maurice growls at him, and he just goes, okay.
I was surprised to see that becoming a meme around the time Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes came out, because I'm like, why is that becoming a meme now?
It's funny.
It's funny.
Probably because Kingdom was coming out.
Yeah, but at the same time, it came out in 2017. It's been like 7 years. It's been a while. Oh man, beautiful though.
It's good. I love
that character.
No. Something I have noticed. We didn't really see them eat ever.
Yeah.
I think the only time we ever see the monkeys eat food is in the prison.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's like what have they been eating?
They give them like
they never
chicken
really talk
feet.
about it. Like chicken feet. Are they in like, I don't know, like a fluffernutter or something?
Yeah, something
or like a
like
glass
that.
of milk.
Yeah, or it was just water, like water in a bucket.
Yeah, they have like water in a bucket. They get fed, but like what were they eating in like the nest? Were they hunting? Were they like growing plants?
Oh man,
they don't really talk about that, and it's not important to the movie. But I like those little world building things. I'd love to know. I'd love to be like, what
Yeah.
is the agricultural
I should be hung up on the
mechanics
fact,
of this ape nest? And I think it's definitely the one I said.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
I will
they have
say-
access to marshmallows and white bread. Why wouldn't they?
I'm getting hung up on the fact that I think they fish with spears and Dawn, and they they also have fish in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, but you just unironically said fluffernutter.
I sure did. It's what they got.
Yeah.
And you can't. We don't see them have it, but we also don't see them not have it. It's very possible that they went to the human camp and they had the ingredients.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, Kobo looks like the kind of guy who would eat a fluffernutter.
You know what I'm thinking?
What are you thinking?
Woody Harrelson looking at Caesar dead in the face, and he's like,
He just takes a giant bite out of a fluffernutter.
I had to shoot my son in the face. He looked at me with trust in his eyes.
And then Caesar's like, dude, that looks good. Can I
he's
get one
like-
of those?
Do you want to buy it? Too bad. And then he's just like
bad.
shoving it into Caesar's mouth, but Caesar isn't opening his mouth to take it because he doesn't want it now, and he's just like, "You want it? Oh, you don't want it."
That does sound like something that would happen, actually. That sounds something that would happen for real. But no, they just get chicken feed and buckets of water, and then Caesar also just gets cold.
This is what.
Dude, when he pours the bucket on him, I was so mad.
Yeah.
I was like, why would you do that?
It's like, how is he gonna drink that water? Also, that orange gorilla, best arc, honestly.
Best arc, but also the moment at the end where he's like, he saves Caesar and he blows the guy up with a grenade launcher, and then he just stands there.
Yeah, I mean, he took.
Turn around!
He took
Punch the guy behind you! You know he has a gun!
It took way too long to get to that
Like,
point.
come on!
He took way too, like
He took a very long time.
if he had taken any longer, all of the other apes would be dead.
Yeah.
Like all of it. Like Rocket would have just gotten blasted in
Yeah.
the face if he had taken
But
any longer.
Great arc. I really enjoyed seeing the build up.
Yeah.
To him finally betraying, because you knew it was gonna happen. They're calling him Donkey. That's not his name. I don't know his name, but it's not that.
I get it mixed up because there was also the albino gorilla named Winter.
Winter.
Which became a donkey.
Winter. Come on, man.
It's easy to do, but at the same, Caesar accidentally kills that guy in the first 40 minutes.
Yeah, he does. He did not intend to do that, and I was like, oh man, he didn't. That was rude.
That was quite rude.
Caesar is kind of brutal in this one.
Yes.
Like, especially considering in Dawn, he's basically a pacifist.
Yes. He lost it.
He does get the first kill in Rise, though.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. One thing I noticed when rewatching this movie is, in comparison to the other two, weirdly enough, it's such a small thing, but in War, he does not smile.
No, he doesn't, does he?
He doesn't smile until the very end when he dies.
Yeah, he only smiles when he knows everyone's safe, and that's
that's like a really good choice.
It's a very good choice.
I want to give props to Andy Serkis because if I'm being honest, I wouldn't put it past Andy Serkis to be the one who came up with that idea.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I mean, he's the emotion capture guy.
Yeah,
like, he's Gollum.
Yes. He's like an expert at it for a reason. He's won an award for it for a reason. I would
like I'm watching him like that's an ape.
Yeah, that's just an ape. That's a full blown ape.
Yeah.
There's so many things to be said about War. I think for it being the longest one, it used its time very well.
I think so too. I think the pacing for it was quite solid.
Oh yeah,
and of course it was also beautiful. The VFX of this
Visually.
one was even better than Dawn, which was already really good.
I think it's visible from like the first frame, if anything, of how good they were going to make it look.
Do you know who's the cinematographer for Ford? Do you know?
Let me
look it up. Because I know Matt Reeves directed this one too.
Yes.
But I'm curious of who the
Michael
cinematographer was.
Sursin.
I recognize that name somewhere. I don't know why.
Let me see here. Short film, The Ragman Star. Blah, blah, blah. He was the cinematographer for Bugsy Malone. What? That's hilarious.
Okay.
Rambo 3, yeah, as you know.
Okay.
Well, he was the cinematographer for Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which does
Okay.
make sense.
That makes sense. And Dawn looks really good too.
Yeah. Oh, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Oh, that one looks great.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, he's the cinematographer.
Oh
for
yeah, that one's really well shot.
Okay.
Out of all of those.
So that's probably where you recognize.
Yeah,
the
that's
name
definitely
from.
where I recognize that.
Fair enough.
But yeah, no, it looks great, and
looks
you
amazing.
can definitely tell there, like you can see a lot of like aspects of the directing of War that definitely get brought into the Batman.
Yes. So that's one of my final points I want to make about War before we get a break is regardless of the fact that I found it overrated on my first watch through, these Dawn and War for the Planet of the Apes were the reason that I was excited to see Matt Reeves in the helm for the Batman because he had basically taken a well-known franchise and gone in a good direction with it. And when I saw that he was in charge of the Batman, I'm going, he's earned my trust. It's essentially the same thing I've gone through recently with the director for Alien Romulus.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about this before. I didn't want to watch the Evil Dead reboots,
Mm-hmm.
the ones from 2013 and then Evil Dead Rise. But after watching Alien Romulus, I trust that director to do a good job with those movies. So I'm actually considering watching them now.
They're really good. Truly, they are really, really good.
I'm willing to give him a shot on the basis of I saw how he handled Alien.
Yep.
And if
Him doing the Evil Dead remake, it's a remake. It's kind of technically not a remake.
Right.
It's like set in the same universe. It's
Right.
it's just the evil happens.
Sure.
There's a cycle or whatever.
But
It's basically a reboot.
right.
But yeah, him finding out that he made that and that when he was making Alien Romulus, I was like, oh, Alien Romulus is gonna be good.
Right. So it's the same thing I went through with Planet of the Apes and the Batman.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes to get a good director, you got to give them a maybe lesser known series or just one that has still got a legacy to it.
Yeah.
See what they do with it. And then at the end of the day, maybe give them the bigger name. Maybe they'll pull something off that was even better than what came before it. And I think Matt Reeves did that with the Batman. But that was last week that I reviewed it. So I'm not going to...
We don't have to talk too much about it.
No.
It's a great looking movie. Matt Reeves is a good director.
Yes.
And War is a beautiful, beautiful movie.
It's so good. And one movie that I actually really like will be our last movie that we talk about tonight, which will be after this break, which will be Kingdom for the Planet of the Apes, which was not directed by Matt Reeves, but I have some interesting opinions on. It's not entirely negative, which is very good. So we'll be back very soon. 88.1 The Burg, your movie central. Welcome back to What to Watch Weekends. My name is Nathan, and you are...
I'm Logan.
You are Logan.
Yes.
I, for some reason, was about to say you were nameless.
I'm not nameless. I fought real hard to get that name back after someone took it from me.
Fair enough. I will no longer disrespect the earned title of Logan.
I appreciate it.
So, for our, well, I suppose, speaking of fighting, we've gone from war into a different Planet of the Apes movie.
Indeed we have.
A fourth Planet of the Apes movie in the prequel series that came out last year.
Mm-hmm.
And when did it come out last year? May 10th last year. So it's been almost a year. No way. Okay. No, okay. You have to explain the context.
Okay, so we were just talking about me and my partner and how our anniversary is coming up on May 10th. And so it's very funny that
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes came out the same day.
It came out on your 1 year anniversary. Yeah. That's hilarious. Okay, well, my brain has now gone to death. What I was trying to say before that funny part happened is I wanted to talk about the Planet of the Apes movies back during that time, but I didn't because it was relevant. Now that it is no longer relevant, I am talking about it.
All right.
Great. So, nearly a year later, here's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes from 2024.
Yep.
I realized that it's not one of the 10 numbers, so I had to say 2024, but whatever. And it is available to watch now on Hulu or Disney Plus. Although, to my knowledge, the way that works is you go to Disney Plus, to get a premium subscription, and it subscribes you to Hulu.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
If you have Disney Plus, you'll probably have Hulu and kind of vice versa.
Yeah. So at any rate, it is available to watch on there. So it's interesting that they went with this route, but I'm not opposed to it.
No, me neither.
Especially the way that they ended War for the Planet of the Apes. The basic plot summary follows a ape by the name of Noah, who is essentially, he exists many, many years after the death of Caesar from War for the Planet of the Apes. It has now been a couple generations. And is now living in a world with a lot more apes than humans.
And they talk.
Yes, they talk. And essentially what happens is after he gives away the position of his tribe, they are all captured by the tribe of Caesar Proximus and brought to his place. And Noah must go on a journey to rescue his tribe. So there we've got the basic plot summary. I think I've summed it up well enough. Okay, so here's the thing. You have seen the first three.
I have.
But you have not seen this one yet.
I have not seen this one yet.
Okay.
But I can still have input.
Yes. Yes, you can. Let me say, so I think in that case, here's the first thing I wanted to say about it is I consider Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes to be very similar to the D&D movie.
Okay.
So
I love that movie.
yes,
So
it's a good movie. Here's where my comparison comes from, right? I would honestly compare the D&D movie a little bit more to the first three movies as a series overall in this particular aspect, which is that it wasn't the best at what it was doing overall, but it was really good at being funny and action-packed and being able to bring in people who aren't familiar with D&D and all of its lore and all of its storylines.
It's a very competent, very well put together film, clearly made by people who love Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes,
and
but but it's very open to all audiences.
Yes,
as well,
exactly.
who may not play D&D.
Yeah, like I went to see it with my parents when that was out, and my mom's not usually a big like fantasy movie person, but she liked it.
Yeah, so from that perspective, it does enough right, plenty of things right, that seeing a sequel is a sort of, I don't need a sequel, but I won't complain if they make a sequel. Planet of the Apes has a very similar sort of, the last three movies have a very similar idea and identity to them, which is that I like the arc of Caesar. I like how it goes from the first movie all the way to the end of the third movie. I'm fine with him passing away. And that's a very conclusive way to end his arc
for him.
Yes, it's a very good arc. And I don't think it needs to have a sequel, but we're very far away from when humanity is almost all nearly gone. We're very far away from where the first movie starts off. There's enough of a gap there. They could fill it in with a movie, maybe two, if they wanted to. And they've done enough right with Caesar and his storyline that I think they can continue it on. To be fair, I think the Dungeons and Dragons movie has a little bit more of a, I wish they would make a sequel to that a little bit more.
I would love if they made a sequel. I have a lot of takes on that, but we can talk about that after.
Right. That's kind of unrelated. It's more so the idea of, I think this one, it has a little less reason just because it's a long-running series and a well-known series, but at the same time, it doesn't not. It makes enough sense to have a sequel, and it doesn't feel like a cheap just cash grab at it. It feels like they could get away with doing another one, and I would still go watch it. Which leads nicely into my next point about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which is that I am mad at myself that I didn't go watch it in theaters when it came out.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there watching it, and I'm going, why didn't I go see this in theaters?
Yeah, I kind of wish I went and saw it in theaters as well. But
I think it deserved to be watched in the big screen. The first 30 minutes alone are good enough to warrant going to see it in the big screen.
Awesome.
It's not like perfect, but what it does do is essentially, I suppose what it is I was realizing I'm missing out on a chance to see the Planet of the Apes, this style of the Planet of the Apes movies on the big screen, because it's not like they're going to bring War for the Planet of the Apes back.
It'd be so cool if they did, though.
It'd be so cool if they did.
I would go see it.
I would totally go see it, but it's not like they're going to do that anytime soon. If they do, it'll be in the next 2 years, and maybe then not. Maybe not.
Probably not, really, yeah.
Probably not. And so...
They don't like theaters anymore. They don't like putting movies in them.
They don't like putting
movies go into theaters for like a week, and then they're on streaming.
Yeah. The long and short of it is I should have gone to see it in the theater, honestly, because the style and the soul of the first 3 movies is all definitely still there.
Yeah.
A lot of it is captured in the fact that the apes are still the best part because they're the apes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I
it
think
is their planet.
Yeah, it's their planet. I think that Kingdom for the Planet of the Apes. Wait, no. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. War for the Planet of the... Okay.
I forgot to bring that up last time.
Yes.
I hate that. I
hate that too.
All of the movies are Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, War for the Planet of the Apes.
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
You can just say of. You could just say War of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
Sure, does it make as much sense? No. But War for the Planet of the Apes, it's different. Why is it inconsistent? They didn't need to do that. I guess, granted, they didn't know that Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was coming out, so they didn't. War 4 does sound more conclusive, but now that there is a 4th movie, it's a weird dump bit. It confuses me every time I talk about it.
I would say it's not even like with the 4th one. It's just like with the other 2. It's like still keep
it's
it
just
War
inconsistent for no reason.
Yes. I mean, it makes more sense with the context of the movie, but
Yes,
just make
but
it of the. Of
Just
the,
say of.
Of the. I don't want to say for the.
It's like
all they've done is
it's still confusing.
They've just added
It's
an
one
R.
word.
It's one word. They've added an R to the word of and switched around the O and the F and made a new word. It's one added letter, but at the same time,
so much.
That added letter removes everything.
But
yes,
it's whatever.
Yes, nitpicks and crazy.
Something I find really interesting about Kingdom is that it seems like it's a bunch of very big like genre shift of these movies. And I guess I obviously haven't seen it yet.
Right.
But it feels like from everything I've seen is it switches from like a very gritty kind of war drama film with monkeys to apes. I'm so sorry. To kind of a more fantasy-esque looking film. Not fantasy, but like
it's
with how the
Okay.
apes are more talkative and like they're very clearly more anthropomorphic. Not anthropomorphic,
It's-
but they are all speaking fluent English, and it feels more fantastical in that sense.
So I'll put it to you like this. It's not. This is a bad comparison when I try to say it's not fantasy.
Yeah.
It's more of an adventure movie in lieu of The Dark Crystal.
Okay.
I would say.
I would argue The Dark Crystal is fantasy, but yeah.
Yes, exactly.
It doesn't need to be fantasy.
No.
Because it's not necessarily. It's all fantasy. It's
Yes.
all fantastical. But
No,
it's obviously it's not like Lord of the Rings, but it does seem more adventure style than the others.
Take out the fantasy part of Dark Crystal and. So don't include Dark Crystal because that was a bad comparison to go off of, and think of it more like a.
I love Dark Crystal though.
Oh, that's so good, but it's definitely more of a adventure post-apocalypse type of thing, but a lot more adventure than post-apocalypse. It's more like
Makes sense. To them, it's not post-apocalyptic. It's just their home.
Yeah, but then again, they do bring up some stuff of like how it used to be. So at the same time, it's like.
It is. It is, but like, yeah.
That is actually kind of a core component of it. So I would actually
Never
maintain.
mind then.
What?
I haven't seen it, so
Yeah,
I don't know.
no, that's fine. So I will, having seen it, I will say actually, I'd call it more of a post-apocalyptic kind of
adventure
thing. Yeah.
Film.
And I think it really pulls that off well. I mean, of course,
It looks really good.
it looks
I
really.
really want to see it.
It looks.
All of the visuals look amazing.
It's beautiful.
I can imagine.
I think like the other ones, the core component is of course the apes, but with the very predictable plot points that we've mentioned before, you'd think it'd be like a whole. You can see where the plot is going usually, except for War for the Planet of the Apes. That one I could not see where that one.
Yeah, that
was
one
going.
threw me off a bit. That one definitely. There was a lot of moments where I was like, did not see that coming.
Yeah, with this one it goes back to the more predictable.
Yeah.
Kind of predictable outcomes, predictable path.
Which is not always a bad thing.
No, it definitely works in favor of this movie, like it has for Dawn and Rise.
Yeah.
Because again, it's still following the apes.
Yeah.
And of course, they've gotten a lot of just nobodies who are still really good at motion capture to do the motion capture for the apes. Like the main character, Noah, really good. Really good.
Yeah, all the designs for all the apes look really, really good. And,
It's
and
basically
especially the movement as well, the motion capture for sure.
Oh yeah, it's basically just an update from what the other ones have done.
Makes
but
sense.
It makes it look a lot better. There's always so many words to have. I think if I had to say a negative thing about it, if I'm being honest, the main human character in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is named Nova, right?
Okay.
She's this girl that they find.
Unrelated to Nova from War.
Yes.
Okay.
Unrelated to the one from War for the Planet of the Apes.
Okay. Just the same name.
Yes, because what this orangutan goes, we will call her Nova because that's what they called girls in Caesar's time. That's just what we do. We just call all of them Nova.
Okay, sure. Yeah, all right. I guess.
He straight up
I mean,
just
I guess
says
you
that.
wouldn't know. So, well, that's actually kind of an interesting bit. It feels like, from everything I know, Caesar seems it's very like kind of like religious undertones.
Yes.
With how they treat Caesar.
Yes.
Am I correct on that?
Yes, especially when it comes to Proximus Caesar, the new villain of the movie, which really good villain.
The name's cool.
He basically runs a cult
Okay.
off of Caesar's teachings and muddies them in a specific way to have him gain power and control.
Never heard of that happen before.
I know, it's crazy. It's almost that's why do you think I called it a cult? It's almost like that.
Oh,
That's not
that's a
irrelevant.
new concept.
That's not a relevant comparison at all.
But yeah, no, that's a really interesting take for that as well. I think that's a really cool way to introduce a villain.
It is an interesting take on it. I will say there's a lot of interesting just ideas here that I wasn't expecting them to do. Like having the core characters be Falconeers. Where did they come up with that?
I didn't know that. That's really cool.
I don't know where they came up with that, but I love it because it doesn't make any sense. It's a little weird, but it's different.
That's okay.
It's
Unique. That's very unique. It's a very unique take.
It's very unique. Again, keep in mind, weird, different. I never said bad.
Oh, I know.
I never said bad.
Never said bad.
I honestly kind of like it. It feels like a refreshing change there because it's like now we're going from more warlike apes to just ones who just want to trade falcons. Like their entire thing is when you're young, your literal, how do I say it? What's that coming of age tradition name? What's it called? Bar mitzvah.
Gotcha.
It's kind of like a bar mitzvah for them of you go and find an eagle egg and you raise the eagle.
Okay.
Or the hawk, falcon. I don't know the
ones
different
they have.
The ones they have, the type of birds that they raise.
Look it up. We have the computer here.
That's a very good point. I will look that up really quickly. I have just completely spat out a bunch of random names.
That's okay. It's at least 3 birds.
That's at least, and it's one of the 3.
It's
That's
got to
for sure.
be one of them.
Let's
like
see
a
here.
pigeon. That'd be so funny.
It's a pigeon.
Yeah, me and my clan were pigeoneers.
Falconry. It was falcons.
Falconry, okay.
So it was the last one, I guess, naturally. At any rate.
It was the first one you said, though, originally, when you brought it up.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
When you first mentioned it, you said they were falconeers. So in your head, you knew.
Yes. Subconsciously, I knew what the apes did.
With the apes, who the apes trained and controlled.
Yeah. I again, falconeer apes. Honestly, not a bad idea.
No, not bad at all.
Oh, yes. So I mentioned that the main female character, right?
Yeah.
So we got off track on calling her Nova. One thing that stuck out to me is that her hair and her face never look bad.
Okay. That is a bit odd for a post-apocalyptic kind of film.
Yes, especially when all the other human characters look ratty and old and like cavemen.
Okay.
The only thing they ever bring up
Interesting.
about her being negative is that she smells bad, and it's like, but I can't smell that through
Yeah,
the
there's
screen.
no smell-o-vision.
We don't have that anymore. And I'm
It's so
sitting.
sad that we don't have that anymore.
I am too. We should.
I want to
bring-
smell all of the apes. I don't. That's great. I don't. I can't even finish that bit. I don't want to do that. Dude, that nest probably smells awful.
Yes, absolutely. It smells like sweaty fur.
We even talk about in war when they all threw the poop. We didn't bring that part up.
I was surprised that it took until War for the Planet of the Apes for them to start throwing poo.
Yeah, they didn't do that in all the other two movies, and they start flinging turds.
It's crazy. They waited. They restrained
Do they throw
themselves.
poop in Kingdom?
No.
What a shame.
What a shame.
That's a core monkey mechanic.
So you saying monkey is
I know.
important.
Is it important?
It's important because you realize none of these movies have the apes say. None of the humans in Dawn do call them monkeys. None of the apes sign back, "I'm an ape." None of them say, "I'm an ape."
Interesting.
That's never a thing that happens in these movies, even though it's such an easy joke. It shows to me that they're actually a lot smarter in terms of the writing team than we give them credit for. That they didn't go for the automatic Overwatch joke of, "I'm an ape."
Actually, I'm an ape.
Actually, I'm an ape. We know. It's called Planet of the Apes for a reason, guys.
Well, we also didn't bring that when Woody Harrelson name dropped Planet of the Apes.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and he goes, like, it would be a Planet of the Apes. Whoa!
How do I conclude this? I will say there's a lot of good things about Kingdom for the Planet of the Planet. There, I did it again.
Kingdom of the Planet of the
Kingdom
Apes.
of the Planet of the Apes. There's a lot good to it, but I honestly don't want to talk too much about it because you haven't seen it yet.
I haven't. I will watch it probably today.
I was going into it thinking to myself, if this is just okay, I will be fine.
Yeah.
And I walked away about halfway through. I'm pausing it. I'm going, this is really good. I really like this. This is a lot better than okay. This is just a lot better than okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any of the critical stuff you see, don't pay attention to it. Just go into it. I would
I'm
honestly,
going to go in as blind as I can, so.
yeah, I'd honestly put it, oh, it's so hard. Where would I rank it? I would say it's almost as good as Dawn.
Okay.
No, Rise.
Okay.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I'd say they're about on the same playing field.
Sure. Yeah. All right.
Maybe
And Rise is pretty good.
Yeah, Rise is pretty good. I mean, aside from my opinions on Malcolm, but that's a whole different thing.
Malcolm's not in that one.
Wait, no. Wait, yes, he is.
In Rise?
No, wait.
James
Yeah.
Franco is in Rise, and we don't like him.
Oh, right.
Malcolm's
Dawn.
Dawn. Yeah.
I meant Dawn. I keep getting them mixed up.
You did the same thing I did.
Oh, boy. Okay, well, with all that being said, that is all the time we have for the show tonight. Thank you again for being on tonight,
Of
Logan.
course, I had a great time.
I had a great time as well. I think this went perfectly, went swimmingly. For those of you who are interested, my name is Nathan, the host of What to Watch Weekends and What to Watch Wednesdays. What to Watch Wednesdays happens next Wednesday and every Wednesday after that from 8 to 9 p.m. here on 88.1 The Burg. If you want to catch up on What to Watch Wednesdays or What to Watch Weekends related content, you can always check out the Instagram or the YouTube page at What to Watch Wednesdays, all one word, no caps, no spaces. And I will also be back next Saturday, for What to Watch Weekends again from 8 to 7 p.m. here on 88.1 The Burg. I do so much stuff that I forget what order I say them in and what all I do.
I understand. That's okay.
That I do a lot of stuff. I do a lot of stuff and I'm on here pretty frequently. So with all that being said, I will be back next Wednesday where I'll tell you all what to watch. Have a good night, everybody.